welcome to another episode of Hawk Talk. It is going to be a good show today. We got all four of the major sports here on 91.7 The Edge, WSUW Whitewater. But first, before we get into our topics today, we're going to go around the room. There's one familiar face I see. The rest are pretty new to me, but we'll start right over here.
Hello, my name is Preston Reynolds. My favorite player of all time is John Randall. He was a D-tackle for the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, if you see a guy that's running at you with full eye black on his face, that's just something not to mess with. Least favorite player, I didn't really go with a player, but the person I do not like is Roger Goodell. He is one of the worst commissioners in the entire, for North American sports. Maybe behind Manfred would be first, and Goodell would be second. He just does not make the smartest decisions in the world, so I chose Roger Goodell.
Interesting. I like it. I'm not really a big fan of Goodell either, to be honest, but, I mean, you need somebody to run the show, so and didn't they just extend him to, an extension? Of course they did, yep. Yeah, that seems about right.
All right, my name is Austin. This is my second time on the show. I was here last semester with Carson, and my favorite player, it's got to be my team hero, Julio Jones. He is top 5 all-time in my eyes. I'll argue that till the day I die. Least favorite, I struggled. It was either Jaylen Brown or Marshawn Lattimore. Two people I just... one of them makes sense. The other one kind of makes sense. I don't think Jaylen Brown's as good as people make him out to be. And I just don't like Marshawn Lattimore. He's a division rival, and he sucks.
I like both of those. I side a little more with the Jaylen Brown than I do Lattimore. He can be a gutsy player sometimes. He can be a little on the bad side, but, I mean, he is a great player. It's just, when he gets rough, he gets really rough.
What's going on, guys? My name is Zach Kreider. Favorite player? I'm a big NFL, NBA guy, so I chose 2 players. One from the NFL, I got Peyton Manning. Huge fan. I grew up watching him. Obviously, greatest quarterback season ever with the Broncos in 2013. And then for basketball, I'm a LeBron fan. Now, I know that gets a bad rap. See, I see your face. I know.
Yeah,
I know that gets a bad rap. But I will say I'm not a delusional Brown fan. I still think Jordan's the greatest. However, I do think LeBron's the best, if that makes sense.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I'm not really a LeBron supporter. Anytime there's the MJ-LeBron debate, I always go MJ. But, I respect your decision for LeBron. I definitely see it. He is definitely a big piece of the game. And I'm assuming you grew up watching him, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Of course. I love the Peyton Manning take. I feel like it's not really talked about enough. In my opinion, I think he's the greatest quarterback ever. I'll say that over Tom Brady.
I like that. I think most talented, I would probably give it to him.
See, thank you. Yeah. Normally I get jumped when I say that, but thank you.
My name is Brendan Donlevy. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee, so that kind of coincides with my favorite player pick all time. I got to go with Tony Allen. He was the heart and soul of the Grit and Grind Grizzlies back in 2010, 2016, the Grit and Grind era. Big basketball fan, so Tony Allen's my favorite. My least favorite of all sports, it's got to be Chris Bryant. I am a Cleveland Guardians/Indians fan, and the 2016 World Series does not sit right with me. It still doesn't. I still get just flashbacks of Nam every time they say year 2016. So every time I hear the name Chris Bryant or Kyle Schwarber, no. It's instantly off.
Yeah, we all got a player like that. I mean, I have 5 off the top of my head, but yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from with that take.
My name is Mason. For my favorite player, I would probably say Jair Alexander. I'm a big Packer fan, NFL fan altogether. For Jair, I just like the swagger that he brings to a team. Does really well. One of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. I just love Jair. For kind of least favorite, as a Packer fan growing up, I used to kind of watch Jared Allen when he was with the Vikings just wreck Aaron Rodgers and our offensive line all the time. So just watching that, seeing drives get pretty much just ended completely by Jared Allen. Didn't really appreciate that very much.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I feel you. I'm a big Jair fan too. He's just he's a great personality, and he's a lockdown corner. I used to say he was the best corner, but I mean this year he didn't really put on his best show, unfortunately. But I would still put him in the top 10 conversation. Not as confident to say top 5. but I mean, he's still a pretty decent corner. And that leaves me. I'm the host. This is my first time hosting. I'm Carson. I've been on the Hawk Talk 2 semesters now. This would be my 3rd. And my favorite player of all time is Russell Wilson. I'm a big Seattle sports fan, if not Milwaukee. I grew up, well, when I first got into sports, I was modeling Russell Wilson. Anytime he would be on, I would just be amazed. They called him the magician. Anytime. I still have the plays of when he would throw to Doug Baldwin against the Cardinals in the back of my head every time. Just how he would, like, manage to get out of a sack every play is just amazing. And my least favorite, it's either Aaron Donald or Nick Bosa. I like flip between those two every Monday, Tuesday. I just despise both of those. Recently, it's been Nick Bosa, especially because of when he sacked Geno Smith. I think it was like 3-4 times in a game, and all he would do was the shoulder shrug. I'm like, are you really gonna? Ugh. Sometimes he can be a little too cocky for me. But I mean, I guess they kind of were saying that when we were the Legion of Boom and we would do similar things to them. But it's just, he leaves a bad taste in my mouth every time. But with introductions out of the way, we're going to get started into our first topic of the semester, and that is Pro Bowl, yes or no. With this, it's going to be a little bit of a debate. Also, the input of everybody on the show of how they feel about the Pro Bowl, how it can be better, or if they want it to be what it used to be, as well as who should be in it and not. So the floor is open for you guys. If you got something to say, just bring it up. I feel like this is a very, not really controversial take anymore. I feel like there's a consensus about the Pro Bowl in general, but anybody want to start off their opinions?
Well, I mean, I can take it. I personally have very strong opinions about the Pro Bowl. I wouldn't say really yes or no. I would lean more towards no, just because I think there's some things that are working. I think there's some things that are not. I did respect the effort. I like what they're trying to do with all the different competitions they have. I still thought it was a little corny at times.
Yeah.
I think their biggest mistake was moving it from Hawaii. I thought that when they had it in Hawaii, all the players were bought in. I mean, it was a great experience. Obviously, you go to, a 5-star resort in Hawaii. I mean, that's going to be a great time.
Yeah.
So I think that when they switched that, I think it just completely killed the vibe for the players. So I think, like I said, some of the events like precision passing, dodgeball, flag football, I thought that was a good decision to make it flag football to avoid injuries. But some events, just like the best catch, I mean, that was just a terrible segment.
Yeah, it's like consistently just not really that entertaining. I mean, with Njoku, I mean, his catching, he had like 3 attempts and he didn't catch it once, and it's like,
And you could still
who has
vote.
the best
Yeah,
catch?
You can still vote for him.
Yeah, and you could still vote for him. It's like, well, I'm going to vote for the guy that actually caught the ball.
Exactly.
So, like, I mean, in concept, it's a great idea. I feel like the players most certainly enjoy it a lot. But, I mean, it's not really the most entertaining thing for their skills, especially when it's like something ridiculous like a 360 on a swing and landing and then trying to catch a ball. It's like, in hindsight, they could definitely, mark it up a little bit better than what it is right now. But yeah, that's just one of the games that has like a flaw system to what they have in the new format.
Yeah, I think, plus a lot of the events are pre-recorded too. I think that was like the worst thing about the best catch. I was expecting it to be in person, and then they just pull up on like a jet ski and like
Yikes, yeah.
zip line. Yeah.
Yeah, just like on a Jumbotron in a stadium, they're going to show it. It's like everybody, I mean, even the people that paid to like see that stuff, frankly, I don't know who would, but the people that did pay for it to see their favorite player pull off like an amazing catch, and it's like, oh, I could have watched it on YouTube.
Yeah,
It's like a little bit like a pat on the nose, like that's not what I wanted kind of deal. But yeah.
I think something else that you could fix is I believe the NFL is the only one that has the Pro Bowl at the end of the season, if I'm correct. All the other ones are during the
Yep.
season.
Yeah, you would be correct. The NHL had theirs, I believe, 2 weeks ago. And yeah,
NBA is
there's the
coming up.
All-Star break.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like for the Pro Bowl, if you had it after like week 10 or 11, I feel like that would also get people like the Super Bowl teams can't like have participating players because they're in the Super Bowl. And I feel like that also kind of ruins the Pro Bowl because, I mean, granted, you have C.J. Stroud who's like cool in this up-and-coming rookie, but I'd rather see Patrick Mahomes and like CMC and George Kittle in the Pro Bowl. And I just feel like it would also be better because injuries wouldn't be as prevalent. I mean, weeks 10 and 11, yeah, injuries happen, but it's not like they have a full season being played and then it's like, oh, this person's injured, this person's injured. I just feel like that would be a little bit better. But I do feel like some of the games are good.
Yeah.
Like dodgeball and kick-tac-toe, I like those. But like, I also feel like it should be something where it shouldn't be AFC versus NFC. I also feel like it should be like, in the NHL, they have 4 different teams that you can, like, a pool of players that you can pick from. I feel like if the Pro Bowl were to, like, do, like, 5-on-5 flag football like they do, but you had, like, a fantasy draft in that, I feel like it'd make it a lot better than just, having C.J. Stroud, Jamar Chase, and all the AFC guys on one team.
I agree. I actually, with the games that you were mentioning, with the kick-tac-toe, I think that's a fantastic game. That is an example of one of the good games, as well as you were mentioning of having like almost like backyard football where they pick their teams, right? Yeah. I love that format. I believe the NFL is it's the NFL and the MLB that are the two that I can think of that are very knowingly just not doing that kind of deal. Like, I love how the NHL does it, as you said, where it's like a whole, like, they're all sitting in chairs and then they find out their team the day of. I feel like that's really unique, and you get all these chemistries that you would never see otherwise. Like, and as well as, you actually brought up a lot of good points. Having it during the season, yeah, because Geno Smith, I don't feel like he should have been in it, and he was a substitute. So that's one example of like having it during the season. You're going to have a lot better of a chance because there's going to be injuries during the end of the season that will cause players to not come in, and then you're going to have people that shouldn't be in it. I mean, you could also say that towards the end of the season, but it's more likely to have the best cast during the season than you would at the end. So yeah, honestly, I agree with all your points.
Yeah, I feel like the Pro Bowl has lost its spark. It just doesn't like as a kid growing up, you're like, I get to see the best players from both different like championships or conferences like go against each other. I mean, we saw like the viral hit of Sean Taylor on the punter. Like, that's just like, that's exactly what everyone wants. And I like all the games and everything, but you can just do that the week leading up. I mean, we'd see that all the time, and it just feels like it's pointless now, especially with even voting. I mean, we saw Amon-Ra St. Brown. He didn't even get put on. He was on an
snub.
all-pro team.
Major snub.
That doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like the Pro Bowl isn't what it used to be. And talking about Hawaii too, that's another new location to get more fans and just spread, because they're always trying to get it more worldwide. That was a perfect opportunity, and they just took it away. It just feels like the Pro Bowl isn't what it used to be, and I feel like the direction they're going in now is the wrong direction. But, I mean, I'm not the one in power here. So.
Yeah. It's unfortunate too, because I feel like you do a really good job with the Pro Bowl. Yeah, it really does feel like more of a fan award than anything at this point. Like, I remember way back in the day when people would say, yeah, he went to like 5 Pro Bowls. It's like, wow, he must be really good. And now if you say that to like, to players, you look at their stats and it's like, how did he get in 3 of these years? So, yeah, honestly, I feel like we're weighing way too heavily on fans. And, yeah. It's just, I honestly, it really does feel like a whole different game now. Like, it really has lost its whole meaning of a Pro Bowl. Now it just feels like a mix of, it's if you took the USFL and backyard football together, like, or even that game mode in Madden, the Yard. That's practically what it feels like. It doesn't even feel like football anymore to me. It just feels like a mixture of it. But I do like the flag football to an extent. I feel like there's different variations and stuff that they could do to make it better, but that's like a bright spot in a dark place kind of deal. I feel like they need to make that a little bit better, as well as some other things in the Pro Bowl to make it what it used to be.
Yeah, because when I think Pro Bowl, you think best versus the best. Like,
Yeah.
to go off what you said earlier, like, whenever I think Pro Bowl, I want to see Sean Taylor smoke a punter, like, that's what I want to see. And now, you got guys like Tyler Huntley, Geno Smith making the Pro Bowl. I have a more extreme take on the matter. Just get rid of it. There's no reason for it. There is just absolutely no reason. No mini games, nothing. Just have your all-pro team, because if we're too concerned about injuries and stuff like that to where we can't have an actual, structured football game, 60 minutes, tackle football, just get rid of it. There's no reason for it. Have your fans vote, who they want to make the Pro Bowl. But besides that, there's really no need for it.
Well, that's an interesting take. I can't say that I disagree with you because, the more you explain about it, the more it makes sense to just get rid of it as a whole. But there's still those people that do enjoy watching the mini games and stuff and seeing their players, even when the Super Bowl, they're not in it, they still get to see their players in it. So they have something to look forward to, which then it makes you kind of think, is it all a marketing thing? But they've said it time and time again that it's the sport is business. So it could just be for money that they think about it. I'd hope that's not the case, but getting rid of it, I wonder what that would do to the sport. I don't think that would change it a whole lot, but
I really feel like it wouldn't change. I think if you scrap the Pro Bowl tomorrow, next year, everyone would forget that the mini games even happened this weekend.
Yeah, I honestly, there's a fair assumption. I just hearing getting rid of it, I don't know, it's just like my brain is just like, that's crazy to think. But it makes sense. It really does make sense because it's so far away from what the game actually is. It's like a whole different thing. So yeah, I could see it.
I think my biggest point of it is I remember back when I was 6, 7 years old, I would watch, the skills competitions like they do have it now, but it was completely different skills. You could do longest throw, accuracy challenges, strongest man. The receivers would do one-on-ones with each other. You don't really see football, true game-like experiences in it anymore. That's kind of my second biggest gripe. My first one is how they do the voting. Obviously, fan voting's fine to a point, but with that, I talk about football in a terminology of defensive line, edge rusher, and off-ball linebacker, and 3 down linemen, 4 linebackers, and 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers. They're not the same system. So when I see off-ball linebackers, there's only 4 of them compared to 12 edge rushers that made the Pro Bowl listed as outside linebackers, which guys like Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith, obviously Fred Warner could have made it in, obviously, if he wasn't in the Super Bowl, but I feel like there's some kind of ingenuity that could be challenged or taken over with making kind of a different aspect. Instead of outside linebacker, you could do edge rusher, so you aren't having only 4 off-ball linebackers compared to the 12 edge rushers.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good take. I never heard somebody take that point of view before, so it's actually interesting to hear that side. Now, is there anyone that you guys feel like that really should have been in the Pro Bowl that wasn't? I know, Austin, you mentioned Amon-Ra, which is just, that I can't believe that he didn't make it. He made All-Pro, but he didn't make the Pro Bowl, which I don't know. I really don't know how that was possible, but just anybody that you guys feel like really should have been a lock-in that wasn't in?
Antoine Winfield Jr.
Yep, Antoine Winfield Jr.
I thought Jordan Love should have made it, especially over Geno.
You're the second person to say that, yeah.
Fully agree.
Well, and I'm not coming from a biased opinion. I'm not the biggest Packer fan, but his resurgence in the second half of the season, I thought he deserved it.
Yeah, honestly, he did. He was ranked what was it? I think it was top 5 in QBR towards week 11 till the end of the season, which is just amazing considering he was in the bottom tier for QBR during the first 7 weeks or so.
Yeah, and I was saying that to my friend the other day. I think that Jordan Love, this may be a hot take, may not be a hot take, but I think he is the biggest improvement that we've ever seen from a quarterback throughout the course of the season.
Wow. I don't know if I would say that's really. Are you saying this season or just like ever?
Just ever.
Okay, that's a little bit more of a hot take because I was like, he's actually not wrong, but then I put it together. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody that really had like an in-season resurgence like him. So I'm forced to agree with you right now, but I just feel like there's somebody.
I mean, Josh Allen also didn't make the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
He led-
another one.
He led in, what was it, all like scrimmage yards and
Yep.
touchdowns?
Yeah, he also-
I mean, that's, you can't like argue with the facts here.
Yeah, he
Like
also broke a record for most consecutive rushing touchdowns and passing touchdowns in games, and like that's not an easy thing to break. So
And we had Gardner Minshew replace
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes. Like,
he shouldn't have even been considered, in my opinion. What did that guy do?
Hey, shout out Gardner Minshew. That's the mullet man right there. It was in a van.
This
Let's
just
go.
further proves the point that abolish the Pro Bowl.
Yep, agreed. Like I said, the more we talk about it, the more I'm on your side.
You could also throw in Quinn Miners there too. I know he got a few All-Pro votes.
UW Love Legend.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go, alum. Yeah, when he got drafted, man, I was so happy. Like, I didn't even know he was from Whitewater, and then I saw on draft day that like the purple logo and everything. I was like, no shot. That's where I'm going to college.
Represent.
Yep. Love it so much. But if there's nothing else that you guys have to add on the Pro Bowl, we're gonna move into our second topic, which is Hawks and hockey. This is gonna be something that I'd like to do every show, which is where we all talk about our own hockey teams. I know some people aren't the most enthusiastic hockey fans, but it's never too late to start. So let's actually, who would like to start? Because I feel like we have a good range here.
I'll go ahead. I'm from Tennessee originally, so I'm a Nashville Predators fan. If you want to look at the definition of mid, that's the Nashville Predators this season. We had a 3-game win streak here, 4-game losing streak there, a 2-game win streak here, a 2-game losing streak there. Overall, I mean, if you're looking for a team to follow, especially because our minor league or KHL affiliate, I guess how you'd call it, is in Milwaukee, I feel like if you're a Wisconsin fan looking to find a hockey team, I would highly recommend supporting the Predators. 26-23 on the season, some star players. Flip Forsberg, been on the team his whole career, got 51 points this year, along with star defenseman Roman Josi, 46 points this year. If you're looking for a good hockey team, like not too great, not too bad, but someone that you can get behind and really, really support as a Wisconsin hockey fan, pick the Nashville Predators.
I love how you're promoting them. Like, it's funny. But yeah, they are the AHL affiliate is the Admirals. And they actually did pretty well last season. I believe it was the semifinals for the AHL championship that they made it to, where they went against the Coachella Firebirds. Unfortunately, they lost. I think they only won one game of the series, maybe two. But yeah, I definitely know a plethora of Nashville Predator fans. I was close to being swayed there, but obviously I have other fans. But what about you, Mason?
I have family that lives in Boston, so I kind of got just acquainted with the Bruins for a long time. I saw the arena when I was in Boston for a wedding. Obviously, I know that some people in here might not agree with that choice. Obviously, they're kind of a little bit of a kind of most hated, so to speak. Obviously, they're leading the Atlantic Division right now with 31 wins on the year, plus 42-point differential. In the last 10, they've won 7. And then their next 3 up against Seattle, LA, and Dallas. Obviously, the Kraken and Kings kind of riding around that 500 range, kind of that mid-zone, as he just stated. And then against Dallas, they're leading the Central Division, so I feel like that could be a really good game kind of coming up next weekend.
Yeah, I was originally a Maple Leafs fan, so I have a hatred for the Bruins. One of my first games watching them was the Bruins demolishing my team. And they also knocked us out of the first round my first year watching the playoffs. So it was like back-to-back pummels for me. And plus, I knew one other Bruins fan, and he's very he also had an impact on it. He's a nice guy, but like when they would win, he would really make you show it. And also, I just don't like Boston. Like the Patriots, the Celtics. There's not too many teams there that I like, but I honestly could go hours for that. But let's loop around here.
Unfortunately, I like the Wild. It's a pretty tough year.
Yeah.
They fired their coach 20 games into the season.
Yep.
They started out 5-10-4.
Yep. It's tough for us. Yeah.
And their goalies are not very good. Their starting goalie, Gustafsson, is allowing 3.2 goals a game, and their backup Fleury is averaging 2.9 goals allowed. So allowing 3 goals in a game is not the biggest way to win a hockey game. This team does not have very good depth either. If they have a couple injuries right now, obviously Spurgeon is out for the year. They have a left wing, Pat Maroon, who's on IR right now. Their center's out on IR right now. They have talent at each position, 1 or 2 guys and a couple young players, but other than that, the depth is just not there. And I just feel like being 5 games under 500 and the way that hockey is right now, you just can't.
Yep.
It's hard to compete with all the injuries and stuff. And so we have the talent. We're in a hole, and switching coaches 20 games in is just not the best way to.
When I saw, I'm like a fan of 3 teams, so sorry if I say, oh yeah, we this, but yeah, when we fired him, I was like, it's over. There's no way. And then Kaprizov was just not himself. He was just not hitting the goals right. He was not playing anywhere near what he was supposed to be. And then when we signed Gus the Bus to that contract early on, I was like, oh, okay, sweet. So we have a set goalie. Nope. That's not right. But it feels like goalie is a big hit or miss position in the league. Like, even with the Kraken, you could say the same thing. But, I mean, yeah. How do you feel about Matt Boldy, though? Because I like him, but it's just he's not entirely consistent enough for me.
Yeah, I also feel like having the people you have around him don't help, because you obviously have Spurgeon, and then you have people like Faber, who just came in last year, who are just pretty much taking up ice time. And I feel like Boldy doesn't have the chemistry with the first and second line guys. So I just feel like, I don't know, I just feel like having not the right amount of chemistry when hockey is so much like mix and match. He's good when he's good, but like you said, he's so inconsistent.
Yep.
He'll go off on like a 7-game point streak, and then he won't score for like 8, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, he did have I believe it was a team high 5 shots on goal in their last game where they lost to Nashville, but
They also blew a 2-0 lead, I believe.
Yeah, but we don't talk about that. But another guy, actually, no, I'll get into him when I talk about my teams. But yeah, that team is just, I feel like their biggest concern is getting good management, because, like you said, they do have the pieces. They just got to figure out how to use them correctly.
They also need to learn to spend.
Yeah, they
get the average guys that are like older.
Yes.
And then they just can't.
Yeah, and they're expecting so much from them, or like how they used to be, but it's just, that's not going to happen. Yeah. Or they just re-sign the same guys.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's another
It'll be
thing.
interesting to see if Hines is still there after this season. Like, if they're like, he's our long term, or if they let him go and.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That will be a conversation to have, yes.
All right, growing up, I stayed pretty far away from hockey. I just pretty much looked at every sport, but as, you know, I'm digging deeper. You guys are like, you have a drill, you're going deep. I just have a little shovel here. I thought I'd go with a team it's also very mid. The Flames, they're 23, 22, and 5 on the year, but if they're going to win or lose, it's coming in groups. You know, if they're going to lose, it's coming in 4. They're going to lose 4 straight, but then they're going to win 4 straight. And in any sport, regardless, that's dangerous, and I like that. And I like my red and gold kind of colors, so I thought, you know, let's roll with a team that a lot of people probably, you know, sweep under the rug, but
Yeah, that's putting it lightly. I don't think I've ever met a Flames fan.
well, now you have.
Yeah, well, yeah. I guess so. Is there any player on the Flames that you particularly like, or is it just?
I just, I like the team. I like, I like the team. I think they're.
You like the team, yeah?
It's a team of. It's not necessarily you see all the stars and everything.
Yeah.
It's just role players that sometimes suck, but sometimes they get it going.
That sounds like a very coach answer. Wow. I'm gonna keep my eye on you this semester for the Flames. I'm gonna walk past you every now and then and be like, hey, how are they doing? Quiz you and everything. Yeah.
I'll be ready.
Oh, I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. Yeah. Zach?
Yeah, now I'm also not the most well-versed in hockey. I do think it's one of the most unique sports. I think it's really cool. I mean, it's a bunch of guys on skates that can, at any moment, just throw down and start throwing punches. I think that's really cool. Team that I'm going to be following is going to be the Chicago Blackhawks. It's the closest team to Wisconsin. And obviously, they got this really stud young guy, Connor Bedard. He's only played in 39 games. He's injured right now, but he's still leading the team in points, goals, and assists. We were speaking about this earlier. He's basically like hockey Jesus right now.
Yeah,
so.
he is one heck of a player, and the fact that he's been injured for, I want to say, like a month and a half, maybe even 2 months, and he's still leading the team in those stats really tells you about the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
That's just a team that in recent years just has not been what people are so used to seeing. Like, years ago, they were one of the best teams, and now they're just bottom tier. So, how long have you been following them?
I do remember kind of following them a little bit when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, I would, watch ESPN, and obviously that's when they were good.
Right.
But since then, I haven't really been following hockey that much, so I'm just kind of starting to get back into that. So.
Yeah, it definitely takes a little bit of getting used to. It's definitely one of those sports where people watch it, then they fall out of it, and then they get back into it, or they just make it their entire life. So there's no in-between with the sport, but I'm sure with, the show here and the playoffs, which I feel like the Stanley Cup playoffs, which is like later on, that is the best postseason of all sports. That's just me, but it's also a little bit biased, but I definitely feel like you'll definitely get more into it as time goes on. But
look forward to it.
yeah. When you guys got Bedard, I was so jealous because I'm not a Blackhawks fan at all. Like, it's funny enough that 2 of my 3 most hated hockey teams are in this room. The Bruins, the Blackhawks, and the Dallas Stars. Those are my 3 teams that I just cannot stand. So it'll definitely be interesting this semester. But I guess for my teams, I'm a big. I like 3 teams. I'm a Kraken first, then the Wild, and then the Maple Leafs. I started out as a Maple Leafs fan back in high school. What was it, like sophomore year? I saw Austin Matthews play. I was like, this guy is amazing. He was drafted, and a few years later he won MVP, and then he also won it a few years ago as well. He's also 4th in MVP rankings right now. I honestly feel like he should be higher because he's like, there's been multiple times where he's pulled off hat tricks. I feel like it's at least been like 8 times this season. He did it in the first 2 games. He hits a bunch of overtime winners. There's a lot you could say about this guy. He also just did win NHL All-Star MVP. So that's an accomplishment in itself. But it was really hard to be a Maple Leafs fan when every year you watch the playoffs and they lose. Like, there was 2 years or so where they were the number 1 seed of the entire league and they lost in the first round. And they only won like 1 game in that series. I'm like, how can you do this? Like, they were so good in almost every stat and they lose to the worst team in the playoff bracket. So that, after a while, that hurt. And then in 2021, when the Kraken came to be, I jumped ship right away because I'm a big Seattle guy. So anytime there's a Seattle team and there's not a Milwaukee team, I'll jump on them. The Kraken is a little bit interesting for our season so far. We had a really slow start this season. We were just nowhere near how we were supposed to be. Then when we traded for Tomas Tatar from the Avalanche, we were on a 9-game win streak. And honestly, now it's no different than how we were last year. Our offense is pretty good, but our defense is pretty lackluster, I would say. Joey Dackert is a little bit better than he was last year. Grubauer's out. At least I believe he is still out, and Dackert is still the guy for them. So he was more than a good enough placeholder. I'm just hoping that they can, stay consistent enough on offense to where they don't fall apart. And the guy that I wanted to bring up earlier when you were talking about the Wild was Eriksson Ek. I feel like if you're not Kaprizov, that's the guy that's doing all the goals and the assists. It's Joel Eriksson Ek, who's been scoring in 3 of the past 5 games. And on ESPN Fantasy, he's ranked 9th in all forwards. That changes like every week, so it's like it could mean like a big deal one week and then not. So he's like the most of the team. He's not entirely consistent, but he's still a pivotal piece on that offense. And I drafted him in fantasy, so he kind of has to be good. So
Legally, it's required.
where do you guys see your teams landing? Just give me a rough estimate if they're gonna make the playoffs or not. You don't have to be exact amount of wins because that's nearly impossible, but just give me a rough estimate of where you guys feel like you're gonna be come Stanley Cup playoff time.
The Predators will be a wild card team come the end of the season.
Yeah.
Book it.
Yeah. I'll bookmark that. If they plummet for the rest of the season, I'm gonna have that and I'm gonna show you that
I will
every
go in
show.
hiding. I will not return.
Okay. I'd be with you, to be honest. They're definitely a more prevalent team this year than they were last year. Last year was a little bit rough, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, it was
Yeah.
not one of our best years.
Yeah.
Recruiting year.
Yeah. It's it feels like every other year with them, it's like they'll be good one year, then the next not so much, and then they'll be better. And
Definition of mid.
yeah, definition of mid. Yeah.
I would say that the Bruins obviously are going to be competing for another Stanley Cup, unfortunately for your fanhood. But obviously right now they're in first in the Atlantic Division. The Panthers are right behind them, and then the Lightning as well. So, of course, everybody in Boston thinks they're going to win national championships every year, and I think they're going to stay the same way this year, unlike their Patriots this year.
All right. Okay. I can't argue because it's Boston. I feel like I can never really count them out. But I have to ask you, how did you feel about last season when you guys put on that historical season and just got first rounded?
Yeah, every time that happens, you kind of have to look at kind of just the excitingness of what happened in the regular season. I kind of liken it to some NFL teams previously as well. You do so well in the regular season, then you kind of flop in the postseason. It's like, were you really just that hyped up? You kind of choke in the first round. Who's to blame? Do the players take most of the blame, or is it the coaching? I tend to think kind of coaching, so to speak, just because you can't kind of wrangle your players together, tell them, hey, you got to take every game by game. Obviously, they didn't really do that during that first series and wound up losing it.
Yeah, fair estimate. I like it. It's a good way to put it.
I'm very conflicted because you always want to see your team in the playoffs, but the Wild do not deserve to be in the playoffs.
No, they don't.
I feel like it's going to be just when Dean Evanson was the coach, it's going to be, we do really good at the end. First round, we might win a game, and then we just get, squashed by, because we score 1 or 0 goals in the last, 3 games. It's just inevitable.
Yeah, and we put up a pretty good fight against the Stars, too. And
then the hometown Ottinger decided that he was going to be the best goalie in the league.
decided he was going to be a tank and not allow anything for 2 games. Yeah.
I mean, as I said before, the Flames, they bounce in and out of making the playoffs and not. Right now, I mean, the Kraken are sitting ahead of the Flames, but it looks pretty, like, looking at all the records of everybody, it's pretty wide open in that section of the Pacific Division. I don't know, honestly. They're a team that, again, they'll do really good one night and they blow it the next. I think they have a deep enough team to go, but I don't know yet. It's wide open.
Yeah, still working out the kinks. Yeah, it's an inconsistent league from what I've been told. So it's kind of hard to see where the Flames are gonna go. But yeah, keep me posted on that.
Yeah, Blackhawks are last in the division, so most likely not. Obviously, well, Bedard's hurt right now, so I mean, if he's hurt, they have absolutely no chance.
Yeah.
Unless he comes back and they somehow, like, some miraculous run where they just, like, never lose a game. But obviously it's not looking good, so they probably will not make the playoffs.
Always next year.
Yeah, sure. Always next year. Yeah. Like I said, it's rough for Blackhawk fans, but I mean, that's almost every year now. I'm just gonna go through quick. The Kraken, I feel like they have potential, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't. The Maple Leafs are a lock every year, and yeah. So now we're gonna move on to our third topic, which I'm sure people will enjoy. The big bucks in baseball a little bit more. So the off season of the MLB, there's been a bunch of major moves as of recently. They talked about Corbin Burns on the show on Monday. Bobby Witt Jr., he just got signed a major contract, franchise record-breaking, not too long ago. And there's also been some other minor moves that have happened between other teams. I know the Mariners have made some moves, the Brewers have made some moves, and the Dodgers have also made some interesting moves as well. So is there anybody that would like to kick us off first?
Well, first and foremost, if we're going to talk about spending this offseason, I think you kind of have to start with the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Starting off with Shohei's contract, you got 10 years, $700 million, over 20 years, so they're going to pay him $2 million each year for the next 10 years. And then once he's off the team, they're going to be paying him $68 million a year. And then they doubled down and signed the best pitcher from Japan, 12 years, $325 million. Again, they're going to pay him $2 million a year for the next 10 years, and then defer the rest of his contract for another 10 years. So between all the moves the Dodgers made, they've signed Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Teoscar Hernandez, on top of an already stacked roster with Freeman, Will Smith, Mookie Betts. If the Dodgers don't win at least 4 World Series in the next 10 years, this was the most gargantuan waste of money we have ever seen. But besides that, if we're going to talk about spending in the offseason, you have to talk about the Dodgers.
Yeah, you really do. And another name that you didn't mention, but I think is also important, is Kershaw. They re-signed him, and as some people may know, he didn't really have the best outing in the playoffs. So I was a bit shocked to why they re-signed him. But I mean, yeah, you can't go wrong with talking about money and LA. It feels like those two are always in the same sentence. I didn't realize how much money until you said it. Because, like, I remember them getting Ohtani, but I forgot about the other players that you mentioned. So the rich get richer, honestly.
It's absurd.
It really is absurd. And like you said, if they don't win anything within the next, 2-3 years, that's plain out robbery for them.
Genuinely World Series or bust. I don't think we've ever seen a team ever to where you have to win a championship you're going to be made a mockery of, besides the Dodgers this year.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I'm kind of looking forward to them to fail. I really want to see them fail.
Oh, we all are.
Yeah. But, it's getting close to an all-star team in general for LA. But, Mason?
I'm looking at the Brewers to make some more moves after trading away Burns, obviously. I know that they got one in return. I literally look at them to try to trade for a third baseman, potentially a pitcher, with Williams potentially on the way out as part of another trade. They said they wouldn't shut any conversations down at this point, which you sometimes hear that, and then they sometimes will trade multiple players away. But out of everyone that I think they could trade, it would probably be Williams. Try to get some, younger guys in return, just, to keep trying to get back to where they once were.
Okay. So do you feel like outfield, like defensively, is more important, or do you feel like offensively?
I would probably feel offensively. Just you got to score points to win. And obviously, if the defense is playing well, you got to score points to win. Obviously, a lot of these baseball games end up with lower scores, but you got to get hits. So
Yeah. I feel like that's the more common answer, is to have a heavy bat rather than a good glove. I feel like most teams should go for that instead. I feel like that's the more consensus agreement.
I wanted to talk about a guy who hasn't even gotten an offer yet, Cody Bellinger.
That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me.
I'm not sure what the Cubs are doing. I mean, you literally watched him play for your organization, and you're not going to offer him anything. Like, I don't really get that. Like, it doesn't even have to be a good offer. Like, just throw something out there, just because you know what he did last year and how much he guided that team defensively and offensively. Like, it would just be absolutely foolish to not even, like, it's not even like you watched him play for another team and you're like, oh, this guy could be good here. Like, you watched him play in your ballpark the entire year and you're just like, meh, we'll wait.
Yeah, it's
Like, I don't know.
yeah. I don't get that either. I mean, the fact not a single call for him is crazy. I could think of like 5 teams off the top of my head that should go for him, and he was a very pivotal part to their early success in the season. So, I mean, maybe it could be because he's asking too much, but there's got to be a time where you pull the pin and you just pay the amount.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I thought the Brewers getting rid of Burns, a lot of people had mixed feelings. I thought it was good. I feel like they're a pretty, like, they kind of needed to cut the wire almost or something like along those lines. But I like where the Brewers are headed now. I would like to see more from them, during this whole, like, just if they could sign another player or something. But Bellinger being left out still, as you guys were talking about, I don't see why he's still available. That doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, I think there's a lot of players that are pretty good and available, and teams just aren't, just going after them. They're not. I mean, you see Gio Urshela, he's drawing interest from the Yankees from what I'm seeing on here, but there's a lot of people that can be really good for these teams that just aren't getting, final deals or even offers like you guys were talking about.
So, how do you feel about Arozarena? Do you feel like he should be pursued, like traded for?
I don't know. I don't know about traded for. It's tough right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you'd be giving up a lot for him. Because, I mean, he's a pretty pivotal part of that team. But you really got a way of what you need and what you're willing to give up in order to go for a player like that. But he's definitely one of the top guys out there if you need somebody. But, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to go back to the Dodgers real quick. Obviously, that Shohei contract, I mean, that's just one of the most unique contracts we've seen in a while.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. I honestly thought he was going to go to the Cubs. I heard that they were pursuing him heavy. I thought, because they got Counsell, so I thought that they were just trying to, like, pair him with Craig Counsell, which, I mean, feels like Brewers are losing everybody now. But, I mean, what's to stop them from, like, all the super teams from doing this kind of contract now? I feel like this is going to become like a regular thing now, where they just pay him only like what, $2.5 million.
It's like they've opened up this new world of contracts that I think at teams like the Mets and the Dodgers have just opened up a wormhole that's going to just lead to chaos amongst the big market teams.
Absolutely. And I think it's hard for me to like see these kind of things happen, because I think without the MLB having a salary cap, it kind of just destroys any parity whatsoever within the league. I mean, we have no small market teams like ever having any chance. I mean, the Oakland
Yeah.
A's this year were a joke.
Preach,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, I would love for Milwaukee to get somebody big like Shohei, but the odds of it happening just because of the money market of what it is now and how it's transforming is just, it's almost impossible to even think that. And I forget, was it a story where they were saying that Shohei was on a plane to Chicago, or was that somewhere else that they said that he was going to? Toronto? You're right, it was Toronto, yeah. And then he just psyched everybody out, yeah.
Well, and that was the big thing too with that free agency. Like, he didn't want anyone to know where he was going. Like, he wanted to keep that whole thing private.
Kept
So
it very in-house, very private.
Yep. Very in-house. I like that because he didn't really move. Ah, funny joke, funny joke. Yeah. Well, with that being said, we're going to go into our final topic. And this one we might need to go over a little bit quicker than I would like us to. But that is X-Seed or Sub-Seed NBA. Just any NBA teams that have really been over your expectations, under your expectations, or right on the money. And again, does anybody want to start? I know this is a very interesting topic.
I'll start. I'll kind of go off of my predictions from the last semester show as well. I said the Thunder were going to be really good. I mean, everyone kind of saw that coming. You know, you got Shai, obviously. You have Chet, who's playing like very well. They just have a nice, like, good chemistry team. The Timberwolves, I didn't see this coming, to be honest. I knew Anthony Edwards was a really good player, but I didn't think they were going to be, 35-16, fighting for, a top 3 seed. The Warriors, that just seems.
Yeah.
Klay Thompson has had the worst season. It seems like it's Curry against everybody, and even when he drops 60, they can't win. But a lot of the teams, I mean, the Clippers, once they got Harden and Westbrook, there's too many guys to kind of guard. I mean, anybody, you can have Kawhi give you a 30-piece, you can have Paul George give you a 30-piece, Harden, maybe not Russ, just because he's a little out of his prime now. But, I mean, for the Western Conference, it seems really scary. Eastern Conference, I feel like it's kind of same people. You see the Celtics, Cavs, Bucks, Knicks. The Pacers, I said they were going to be pretty decent. I mean, they're the 6th seed. With Tyrese getting hurt and everything, they've kind of cooled down a little bit. But, I mean, that too, the Hawks really aren't good. They kind of gave Trae Young a pity reserve now for the All-Star game, but I feel like he should have been on it, like, for sure a lock. But I would say the Knicks are really dangerous right now. Jalen Brunson's having a crazy kind of stretch, as well as they're just having a crazy win game stretch. So, those are the teams that I think have kind of exceeded or subseeded expectations.
Yeah, we think alike. I agree with most of your picks.
2 teams that I want to talk about. I think the Cavs actually were surprises for me, just because they're leading the Central right now, and they're the 2 seed. I mean, they're 5 games back, but it's the East, and you never know what could happen. And especially after last year losing 4-1 in the first round to the Knicks. The second team was the Rockets. I feel like they've exceeded for me, because I was looking and they were projected 31.5 wins, and they're at 23 right now, and we're 50 games in, and they just traded for Steven Adams. So, like, I mean, I feel like they have Van Fleet, who can score. Brooks can be Brooks and be a menace and all that. Steven Adams is obviously a menace in the paint and all that. And I just feel like with the draft capital that they have, they could make a couple more trades, and then even the couple of young guys that they've drafted the past couple years, bringing all that together with Udoka, the helm. It's just, I don't know. I just feel like they've exceeded, and I think they're 1 game out of the play-in 10 seed right now. So.
Very good. Very interesting. Very interesting.
I would kind of say as of late, specifically the Bucks, just because they hire Doc Rivers, you fire your head coach, you bring in Doc Rivers, who's, some people have very mixed opinions on, and since he's been hired, you've lost more games than you've won, especially on the road this year. 12-13, not doing so hot there, but you'd like to see them, especially after firing your coach mid-year. You were doing really well, and now ever since you brought a new coach in, kind of changed the culture a little bit. Everything's kind of going a little bit haywire, losing more games than you've won, including one at home, which you probably should have won.
Yeah, fair assessment. I agree.
I feel like Bucks fans shouldn't overreact. All 5 of those games were on the road. It's still a new system, but that's just being said. He's 1-4, but I mean, by the time they get back to Milwaukee, I think the Bucks will be just fine. I picked 3 teams. I picked one team that is below expectations, one team on expectation, one team way over. Below expectations, I got to go with my Grizzlies. And really, it's not so much our fault. It's just the injury bug has bit us hard. Last game against Boston, we had 13 guys in the injury report, which I tied an NBA record. Basically, our entire guys that all play were out, and we had to bring up 4 G Leaguers to even field a team. And that game went about as bad as you expected. We lost by 40. The spread was 18.5 pregame, which is for a professional game is just absurd. A team that I think is meeting expectations is Boston. Boston was my preseason pick to win it all. I really love the pickup of Porzingis. And Boston has just been flat out dominant. I know that's not what Bucks fans want to hear, but Boston is just without a doubt, I think, the best team in the league and the clear-cut favorite to win it all. And then one team that exceeded expectations by far, in my opinion, is the Oklahoma City Thunder. They have so much draft capital. I believe I saw the stat they have like 32 picks over the next 10 years. They've been planning this rebuild now since they got rid of KD, Russ, Paul George, and they are supposed to be like a young, fun team that's a 10 or 9 seed. This team should not be first place in the Western Conference. I mean, the average age on their team is 24 years old. That's just 3 years older than I am, and like these guys are leading the NBA and running the league. And for just as young as they are and just how incredible and remarkable Chet Holmgren has been as this rookie season, the Thunder are a future dynasty, and if you're in the Western Conference, be terrified.
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked by that team too. I know a couple people that were like, "Oh, they're going to be great," and I was like, "I mean, they're going to be good, but not for a couple years." And the fact that they're already good is crazy to me. But they actually aren't the number 1 in the West. It's the Clippers.
Yeah, so
Just past them.
Yeah, 4
Yeah.
teams are tied, but there's no games behind. So the Clippers have just played one more game, so they're all technically tied for first.
Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah, technicality. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with the Thunder pick. I mean, they are just like the scariest team. The fact that they are now second in the West and they can just go out and just get basically anybody in the league. I mean, there's no team that's going to say no to, if they want, they can just unload 5 first-round picks.
How do you say no to
Because
that?
they have just all the assets in the world. They can just get anybody.
Future dynasty, man. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It really is.
I will say I did kind of see the Warriors thing coming just because I mean, they're all getting old and they have never really prioritized a big man. I mean, they always have like these 6'9", 6'10" big guys. They never have like this size. When they had JaVale McGee and Andrew Bogut, they won a championship and they were over 7 foot. They weren't like some dominant big guy, but they got the job done. I think the biggest surprise of this whole season, like you mentioned, was the Timberwolves. I mean, they basically ran it back with the same guys that they had last year, and all of a sudden they're like dominant, like winning games. I think the defense has improved tremendously. I think Rudy Gobert almost probably got snubbed out of the All-Star. I thought he's been playing fantastic defense. Anthony Edwards has made the jump to superstardom. He's going to be one of the best players in the league going forward. And I think Mike Conley, I think that trade was probably the difference for them. I think that he's just been able to just facilitate the floor, and I mean, he's just got everyone in the right position. I thought they're definitely the biggest surprise this year.
Yeah. So it seems like the word around the room for most of us is the same for some teams. Yeah, I agree. The Timberwolves was definitely a shock to me because they were not entirely great last year. But unfortunately, we won't have time for final thoughts for this show. But what a way to kick off the semester. Great way to start. Nice crew here, and yeah, I look forward to the rest of the semester. And thank you for listening to Hawk Talk here on 91.7 The Edge, WSUW Whitewater, and we're gonna put you back to some more hip hop.